as you push with purification, self-purification, as you push with sadhana or meditation, if you keep moving and keep cultivating those virtues, you will keep unlocking a new stage of bliss. You will keep unlocking a new way of looking at life because now your view has changed. By that I mean the viewpoint has also changed. If you've ever tried meditating, which I suppose most of you must have, hence the reason you are here, then one common thing you hear all the time is, my mind is not stable. That I try to meditate, but it wanders off. It goes on to things unimaginable, unthought of, unheard of. Even there are times when you are actually conscious and awake, you would never have that kind of a thought that you might get when you are actually meditating. And when a meditator starts on the journey, one of the dilemmas is, one of the questions that comes to your mind is, was my mind always this talkative? Because you start to realize how it's just never quiet. Just like this pitter-patter of the rain right now that we are experiencing, that's how constantly thoughts come into the mind. So when Krishna says, abhyasem tu kante, verabhyam cha grihate, that there are two things you need, Arjuna, to really still your mind. Abhyas, practice. But more than that, detachment. Living with a sense of detachment with the world around us. It's very interesting why detachment is so important. In other words, if you are meditating incorrectly and you're meditating and you're not able to concentrate, will pushing hard make you meditate better? Only to some degree, not fully. The subtle impressions of the subconscious will continue to come to the fore. They will continue to disturb your meditation. They will continue to interfere with your state of consciousness. And then every single thought that comes into your mind, we just tend to take it seriously when in fact what we should be doing is ignoring it, not analyzing it at that point in time. So many of you must be worried before you came to the ashram. I hope I get there. I've made a booking. I hope everything goes fine. I hope घर में किसी को पता ना चले या घर वाले हाँ कहें या कोई परेशान ना करे. I should get there somehow. Now you must be worried. I hope I can get back home. The exact opposite. So you can never really trust the flow of mind. Because if it's not in control, which it isn't for the most part, it is going to disturb you. The same rain that's bothering you now would actually become a thing of joy for you once your mind is somewhat going according to you. I remember when I used to meditate in the Badrinath cave, I used to be so happy every time it would rain. Because I would say, Aaj koi nahi aayega mere paas. Today, nobody is going to disturb me during the day. Because sometimes even when the door of the cave would be closed, some Einstein would come and start knocking as if I would just open. And sometimes you would say, internally saying Om, you would say it loudly to indicate to them that, look, you are in meditation, but they wouldn't register anything. They had the sensitivity of a 3-day-old puppy. You could be shooting daggers with your eyes, but they wouldn't know what you're trying to tell them. So this same rain that was an inconvenience for everybody else was a matter of great joy for a meditator who just wanted his peace and quiet, which, as you know, living in India, even more than quieting your mind is to find a place that's quiet. So स्थित प्रज्ञ से का भाषा समाधिस्तस्य केशव स्थित धीर किम प्रवासेत कि मासीत व्रजेत किम. Please resolve for me, Krishna, Arjuna says. How do I really attain that perfection of mind? How do I attain that consciousness which you call sthit pragya? Sthit pragya se ka bhasha? What is this being sthit pragya? Means to be firmly established in a state of supreme consciousness. Samadhisthasya Keshava. What is it? What does it even mean when we say being in samadhi? From my experience, I've told you there's a physical aspect of samadhi, which is profound physical sensations on the crown and on the gleba, on the brow chakra, the agya chakra. But there's also a spiritual dimension to it. There's also a psychological and emotional dimension to samadhi. Sit pragya ka bhasha samadhisthasya Keshava. What is samadhi that you speak of, Krishna? Sthit kim prabhashet, kim asit vrjet ke. How do I identify such a person? How do they sit? How do they talk? How do they conduct themselves? How do they carry themselves? After all, you can be sure if you attain a state of samadhi, a tattoo is not going to appear on your forehead. Suddenly it won't say samadhist. Although you could get it artificially carved. So what is that person? Prajahati yada kaman sarvan parth manogatan atmanev atmanatishta sitvagyasta tucchati. Hey Parth, the one, that person who is no longer attached to his or her desires, who has ceased to live only for themselves. Prajahati yada kaman, only selfish karma, they've relinquished that. Sarvan parth manogata, from all aspects. Only such a person is sthit pragya. Not anybody else who's simply trying to meditate hard and harder and harder and harder. And you know, it is impossible to really attain that supreme state of realization without first cultivating the virtues that are required, absolutely essential to walk the spiritual path. And many of you must have tried to be humble, but it's not easy, right? Deep down, everybody believes they are great. Really, even if they appear very humble. Remember, I shared this with you a long time back. This priest came and fell at the altar and said, "Oh Lord, I am nobody. I am nobody, oh Lord." And the junior priest saw that. He also came after him, fell flat at the altar. "I am nobody, Lord. I am nobody. I'm just a nobody." And there was a janitor who was sweeping the floors and things. He said, "This must be some way of praying to God." And he also fell flat and said, "Oh God, I am nobody. I'm nobody." And the senior priest said to the junior one, "Look, who thinks he's a nobody?" So deep down, everybody feels that they are great. Try telling somebody, "Hey, you're not great. You're just average. You don't mean anything to the world." Even though that's the thing they will say to the world. "I am a nobody. I don't mean anything. I'm just a nobody." But try telling somebody you're a nobody and see if they really feel. So the point about humility, humbleness, I almost think like somewhere it's a joke being played that the word humiliation and humility are so close to each other. The absence of one immediately leads to the presence of the other. So why humility is absolutely essential to spiritual progress, and why being sthit pragya, being in a state firmly established, which Krishna called kutastha, leads to humbleness. If you really think about it, when are we not humble? What do you think is the opposite of being humble? Probably you would think it's being arrogant or being rude. I think not quite. I think the opposite of humility is not arrogance, but rigidity. When you're rigid, you cannot be humble. This guru was walking with his disciples, and they were walking through a valley, and suddenly one of the disciples, his foot slipped, and he started going down a gorge. And there, the guru said, hold on to something, some shrub, something, and there was a bamboo. And he held on to the bamboo, and the bamboo bent a great deal, and then allowed him to adjust. So he found his footing, and he made his way back up. And the master said, that is what self-realization is. And the disciple said, oh, you mean falling down the ditch? No. You saw the bamboo? See, it bent. It bent to support you. A tree that's laden will be bent by default a little bit. But the bamboo did not break, the master said. The bamboo bent, but did not break. And it came back to its original state when you let go of it. That flexibility is actually the basis of all joy in life, and certainly all humility one can muster. Because if you are flexible, that means you are not deeply attached to anything. That you're okay to go with the flow. You're okay to roll along. Which means you'll naturally be humble. There'll be no conflict. There'll be very little conflict. There will be no stress between two people. You would see the true coexistence of two truths. Prajati yada kaman sarvan parth manogatan atmane vatmana tishtastit pragyasta puchyate. When that happens, O Parth, then you discover this ocean of bliss inside your soul, which is more than adequate for the best of the best. Dukheshva anudrigna manaha sukheshu vigatspraha veet rag bhaya krodha stidhir muniruchyate. I don't think that is enough, Kandai. You have to understand, Krishna says, Dukheshva anudrigna mana sukheshu vigatspraha. Dukh bhi aayenge aur sukh bhi aayenge. It's impossible to always have one constant kind of weather. This is how life's supposed to be. You will have adversities, you will have challenges, you will have people who will oppose you, you will have people who will disagree with you, you will have people who will malign you, you will have people who don't necessarily hold you in their best regards or books or whatever. And you'll also have the other set of people who love you to death, and they'll be happy to kill you. But just because life is not going according to you, Krishna says, Dukheshva anudvigna mana, doesn't mean you get agitated. In that moment, it's not wise to get agitated. It helps to remember that this will pass and worse times will come. So this is much better what you have right now. So this would seem very rosy in hindsight. Sukheshu vigatspraha. Even if you're very happy, if things are going great according to you, breathe. It's not going to last. We just don't know when the sun will go down and start raining, when the clouds of adversities or challenges or conflicts will just absolutely come in front of the sun of your life. It's going to happen. Vitrag bhaya krodha. But it's important then to get past your passion, your attachment, Krishna says, and your fears and your anger. I feel anger can easily be taken care of by being flexible in life. By saying, okay, let's agree to disagree. Or fine, maybe there is something to it. Mullah Nasruddin was one day riding his donkey, but he was sitting backwards. He was facing the donkey's tail, donkey this way. And some people stopped him. They said, Mullah, you're riding your donkey wrong. You should be facing the other way. He said, who says it's wrong? We're just having a disagreement. My donkey wants to go in this direction. I want to go in that direction. That's all. So we're doing our thing. And the people thought he got us. There was no comeback to something like this. So they said, next time he pulls this one on us, we'll do something. And sure enough, a few days later, Mullah was riding his donkey right. They both were facing the right direction. And those people were standing at a pawn shop and stopped him. They said, Mullah, today both of you are riding wrong. It seems we should be going in the other direction, but both of you are going in the other direction. And Mullah said, absolutely not. You all are standing wrong today. We are going in the right direction. So everything is simply a matter of perspective. Have you noticed in all kinds of conflicts, every single bar none, there are two perspectives. One, that the other person have, and second, that you have, which of course is more important. The more serious the conflict, according to you, the more you would want to hold on to your point of view. And the more difficult it'll get to resolve that conflict. And in the middle of that conflict, you will not experience peace. Resolution of conflict does not lead to peace. It may lead to a sense of triumph. It may lead to a sense of relief, but not peace. Because if you have trampled onto the perspective of the other person without them buying into your viewpoint, it is going to lead to some other kind of conflict. It's like you can't have any crack in a wall if you want to stop the inflow of water that's seeping through. You got to plug all the cracks. You stop here, it'll come through some other point. Dukheshvanu digna manha sukheshu vigatsraha vitrat bhaya krodastidhir muniruchyate. That person is his consciousness, his mind has stabilized. And we all know what a joy it is to deal with somebody who's of a stable mind. And the contrary as well. And the reverse as well. Yah sarvatran abhisnehas tatprapya shubha ashubham na abhinandati na dveshti tasya pragya pratishtita. The one who has understood that today my glories are being sung, and that's fine. Tomorrow people will sing bad of me, and that's okay. They are not singing my glories just because I am the way I am. They are singing my glories because they think that I am a certain way. If their thinking changes, or their perception changes, or their priorities change, they will start thinking differently about the very same person. Forever, he says, Shubha Ashubham. There'll be some things that'll be desirable, that'll be so-called auspicious, and there'll be some things that are not so desirable. But if you want that supreme state of being, then you have to go through this test of fire. You have to remind yourself, is it worth it for me? If you're walking down the road and there is a paddy of cow dung right in the middle, what are you going to do? Stand there and yell at the government, the municipal corporation? They didn't do their job, it's sitting there, or the person who owned that cow perhaps? Or are you going to walk around it? Or are you going to be so angry that you'll go right in the middle and stamp? And you can well imagine the outcome. You won't need another makeup. So you go around. Same happens with most undesirable things in life. It's baffling how 95% of the conflict we take upon us, or we let that conflict bother us, when in fact it has no material sense at all. It has no bearing on anything at all. But Vishyavi nivartante niraharasya dehina rasvarjam pujasya param dashtva nivartate. This is such a deep verse, I feel, in Bhagavad Gita. Here Krishna says something very, very deep and beautiful. He says, look, to say I no longer do something is never enough. If on the outside you've engaged in what we call tyaga, you've renounced something, you've relinquished something. Vishyavi nivartante niraharasya dehina. You're no longer providing your body with that ahar, with that food. That's why Patanjali said pratyahar. Reduce the amount of input to your senses. That's what pratyahar basically means. But if you're constantly contemplating on it, if deep down you still want those joys, those desires, you still have those desires, but on the outside you've given up, or you've renounced, or you've just no longer engaging in them, that's not going to lead to peace. Yattopi kante purushasya vipaschita. Indriyani pramathini haranti prasnam. Because your senses will overpower you then. But the question becomes then how to distance yourself from all things that are a hurdle on your path. On the face of it seems pretty simple, because he says, Yada sangrate chayam kurungani sarvasha indriyani indriyarthya pastasya pragya pratishtita. It's very straightforward, because that was Krishna, right? He made it sound so simple to Arjun that he thought, I've got it all figured out now. Stitosigat asmigat sandeh karishevatnam. I'll do what you ask me to do. But it happens in the presence of awakened beings, in the presence of noble souls. Everything seems simple. Everything seems beautiful. Everything seems meaningful. But when the distance, when you are away from them, then you say, it's not that easy. Itna aasan nahi hai jitna lag raha tha. As I said, this story about Neem Karoli Baba many years ago, Krishna Das, who's a famous singer, as you know, or Ram Das, I think he said that. He said, what amazed me the most was not that Baba loved everybody. He said, it is expected from saints. It's the job of a saint to love everybody. He said, what amazed me the most was that in his presence, I loved everybody. That I experienced that transformation which left me with nothing but feelings of love for all those who were around me. To be in that state. So, to be in that state, you will have to work on self-purification and stabilization of this ever-moving mind. And when that happens, magic will happen. When that happens, your life will actually be transformed. That's irreversible transformation. Until then, it's always 2 steps forward and maybe 2 steps back, and 3 steps forward and 2 steps back. And then you hit a plateau, and then you're sitting and you're feeling bored and you're thinking, this is not for me. Meditation's not working, or sadhana's not working, or japa's not working. That's because you need to just nudge yourself and get to the next level to see another range of, the new range of mountains, a new vista. And once you're really high up, it's all the same then, just clouds underneath you. But as you go up into the clouds, think of your clouds as your final state of consciousness, and beyond that is super consciousness. And let's say you're in a plane. Maybe you've manufactured it yourself, and you're sitting in that plane, right? As it's taking off, The scene is going to change, the scenery is going to change, the landscape is going to change. Every few seconds, every few minutes, you will register a new landscape. A new aerial view is unlocked. And that are different stages of consciousness. But as you go really high up, maybe 30,000 feet up in the air, or I'm not a pilot, so I don't know what's a good thing, but let's say you see nothing but just clouds. You might see a shining sun on the horizon somewhere still or at a distance, but you see nothing else, just clouds. It's all the same, so much so you have no realization of the speed at which you are going then. It feels it's very slow, but you could be moving at the max speed. Same happens as you push with purification, self-purification, as you push with sadhana or meditation. If you keep moving and keep cultivating those virtues, you will keep unlocking a new stage of bliss. You will keep unlocking a new way of looking at life because now your view has changed. By that I mean the viewpoint has also changed. But after a while, you'll go beyond the clouds. And that is sthit prajna. Then it's all the same. Sarvbhut sasthamatmani sarvbhutani cha atmani. Ikshate yogyuktatma sarvatra samadarshana. Wherever you will see, Krishna says, you will see me. And that's exactly what happens. It might be raining buckets below you, but to you it's still just clouds. So no matter how difficult the situation, circumstances, you always have to find a way to go above them. They wouldn't matter then. They would become tiny, immaterial, insignificant in your grand life. And that cannot happen just by saying, oh, I cannot meditate for 10 minutes, so I'm going to start meditating for 30. You cannot fly into the clouds with a bicycle, no matter how hard you pedal, right? Not possible. You need to equip yourself with the right thing. Even if you're tied to a plane and you're on a bike, you can well imagine your state. It's going to dangle from the sky, and if you, God forbid, if you fall down, that would be the worst endeavor you would have ever undertaken. So you need to do things not only in the right manner, but do the right things in the right manner. Only then we can hope to make progress that is actually going to be noticeable or significant or the kind that you always aimed for or wanted or heard of or heard about or read about and things. Really, it's that simple.